Hello, everyone, and welcome to Play Versus. My name is Perino. I am joined by my friend, the Doctor, and today, coming up for you guys, we have the New York State League of Legends Grand Final matchup between Brighton High School and Palmyra-Macedon Senior High School. Doctor, it's great to have you with me.
Yeah, it's great to be back as always here with the Play versus production team. They are absolutely fantastic to work with, and the product that they put out is next to none other, both in quality and what they actually bring to their community. It is always just so much fun to be back here.
It absolutely is, and we should have another great day of League of Legends. We have two teams coming up, working through this spring season. They have put in all the time and effort, and now we're here at the grand final. I love watching these matchups. They're always so much fun, and we have another two very strong teams coming into this.
Yeah, and as we're taking a look at the bracket here, we're going to see just the path that these teams have made or gone through to make it here. The Brighton Barons versus Claude 9, both winning their quarter and semifinal matchups to find themselves here in the grand final. And now it all comes down to this. One team will be walking away today, that state championship title dragging behind them. And I'm excited to see who is the one to be able to lift it at the end of the day. Not physically, but you know what I mean.
Yes, this is an entirely online event. With everything going on, we can't all be together working out of the same room. But I also just have to say I love the team name for Palmac. Claude 9, of course, playing on the name of a very prestigious esports organization, Cloud9, who had a very successful spring split themselves, so I believe they'll be looking to replicate that success here.
Yeah, I mean, looking to maybe, invoke a little bit of, that prestige or that, talent that the team obviously showed, bringing it to with them now to the state level, hoping to come over with a W and make sure that, they show at least a very strong approach to it.
Yes, they of course will be doing everything in their power to take home their title. And I'm looking through their roster. We have a little bit of statistics here that we're going through. I'm looking at the player breakdown. Someone that stands out to me is Just Try Please. Their mid laner, average KDA 9.1, a 54% takedown participation rate. That is a very strong mid lane. Of course, a huge impact position in League of Legends, and they'll be looking for a big performance out of James there to try and take home this title.
Yeah, mid laner is traditionally one of the most active portions of the map. There was a little bit of time in the game's history where we had tank mid laners, so it wasn't necessarily true during that portion of the game. But, ever since then, it's always been either, assassins, lane carries, objective style mage play. So, I mean, having a 54% takedown participation is actually huge. It means in more than 50%, over half of your team's, takedowns, you've had some form of involvement. Not always the easiest thing to do either. You do have some of these bot lanes or these top laners that really pop off and, rack up some really, really huge numbers. And then to have your mid laner at least be involved in them, is really crazy to see that across the board and across, a season. But it looks like we are going to be getting into the draft shortly. And so we're going to be able to see what these players are looking to pick up.
Yes, of course, we'll bring you that board when we have those picks and bans coming through online. This is always one of the most interesting stages of the series here because this is, of course, the grand final. It is a best of 3. And going into it, do you stick to the game plan? Do you try and play to the opponent? What do you try and take away? What do you try and set up for yourself? It's a huge chess match at the beginning, and it's so interesting to watch as we're getting underway here.
Yeah, I mean, best of 3s are very complex when it comes to the draft phase. There's many different approaches you can bring to the table to determine how you want to play it. You can kind of sacrifice game 1, pick your out of the box strategy, your Shaco mid, your Vayne tops. Like this is the game to get those out of the box and out of your system before you focus more on a traditional style. It does elongate the series because then you do potentially have to go to that game 3. But if you win, such a morale boost and, a deficit to the enemy team, you won on your off meta pick and that you can, take advantage of that. And it potentially forces a ban in game 2 that then opens up the rest of the rift for your team.
Yes, it certainly does. As we go through our first ban wave here, some key impact champions taken off the board already, and I actually like they're both schools targeting the support position as well. We could see both Leona and Nautilus off the board already.
Yeah, 2 just massive body tanks with tons of crowd control in their kit. Take them away, it really, diversifies that bottom lane because now you can pick the enchanters, you can pick the squishy style champions. You don't have to worry about just getting exploded. However, it does look like Cloud9 going with that Blitzcrank pick. You can't dodge the hooks. You are still going to be getting grabbed today. Doesn't matter who you pick, but man, the response coming in with an Udyr, that is something bold.
Yes, I love the creativity, right? You want to go a little bit out of the box. Udyr can be one of those things. You don't see him often these days, so definitely, something interesting is, of course, the return pick from Palmac is going to be that Urgot, presumably in the top lane. So very interesting picks and bans so far.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally non-standard. Yes, Blitzcrank's been seeing a lot of play, both professionally and non-professionally, but it's still a bit of an oddball pick when you do have such strong picks in the meta. Udyr, completely out of the box. We haven't seen this champion in like 3 years. It's hard to believe it still exists, but every now and then you do get somebody to pick it up and, bust down the gates. But to respond back with Urgot is also a pretty strong showing. That champion received some indirect buffs with the change to Death's Dance, now building out of a much bruiserier path, picking up the shield, getting that armor and magic resist becomes very difficult to take down. And so, it kind of goes in the face of what the Barons are looking to put together as a squad.
Yes, as we can see now, the second set of picks coming through looks like we will be getting that Jhin Braum working in the bot lane there. I do like that setup there. I think that can be a very strong play for your bottom lane. Of course, Palmac will have an answer with their own AD carry. We'll see how they decide to respond, and they come out with Twitch.
Just, okay. This series already has a lot to unpack. Let's see. Jhin Braum, very standard bottom lane, lots of crowd control, very difficult to engage and disengage from. Very standard. Twitch Blitz. Oh man, Blitzcrank, like I was talking about, very strong. Really excels in just pulling somebody out of position, making sure that they either have to blow a summoner or be this uber tank that can't get taken down very quickly. But Twitch is just such an oddball pick. It doesn't really have a lot going for it right now in the current meta. It scales infinitely. Like, this champion will forever be one of the best late game champions to pick in the entire game, but it's so difficult to get to that stage of the game right now. Games are now ending 22 to 30 minutes, and for Twitch to generally come online takes like 35 minutes. You need to get 2 to 3 items because you need your Blade of the Ruined King, your Runeans, and then your Infinity Edge. And without those items, you feel mostly lackluster. I mean, one of the betterments for Palmac is that they don't have any true tanks on the other side. The Braum's kind of annoying because the Unbreakable kind of causes issues, but it's really not that bad at the end of the day. But I don't know, somebody in solo queue put it best to me the other day. They were like, Twitch is the single worst champion in the game, and I was like, close. Kog'Maw's got him beat, but oh man, there's really just not much going for the champion unless you pick Yuumi. Twitch Yuumi, broken, absolutely broken.
Yes, it will be interesting to see the response, but it's one of those things, especially with the AD carry pool in particular. There are a couple of name brand picks that are obviously still on the board. We see so many strong AD carries. I am surprised by the Twitch pick, but I love it. Hey, listen, do what has gotten you to this point so far, right? If you've been winning games and you have proven that you can demonstrate success on a different champion, then by all means go for it. You have nothing left to lose at this point, right? It is win or go home, so to speak. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it big. I like it. I think it'll be fun to watch.
So the champion does have a lot of surprise factor. Some people do forget that the champion exists, and when you lane against it, you can catch people very unawares. And with Jhin being a very immobile marksman and not having a lot of survivability just built into the kit like some of these others, you can really sneak up on them. And so if you can kind of bait that in, have like the solo blitz crank, trying to defend the tower after they visually see Twitch back, and all of a sudden him submarining, through the tri-bush over onto him, that can catch him off guard. And then it really makes it difficult for the Jhin to respond without trying to blow summoners. And if those summoners are already blown, then it just becomes almost impossible for him to get away.
Yes, and we spent a lot of, time talking about this bottom lane here. I just want to look at some of the other matchups. I do think the jungle matchup in particular is also interesting. I'll lean on you a little bit for this breakdown here because we have the Udyr, and that's just something very out of the box.
Yeah, I mean Udyr, as we're heading into the game, Udyr, it's really kind of tough to really break down. The reason being is that he's not super seen that much, so it's really difficult to see how he plays into the current meta. We used to see like AP Udyr, in which case they would stack Phoenix stance and clear super quick. This was quite a while ago. The new Runic Echoes item does synergize very effectively with it, and you basically insta-clear jungle camps, which can make your clear just super fast and super unpredictable. But for more sustained, output from the champion itself, we've been seeing the Tiger stance, which is going the Devourer enchant and, being pretty much a menace, that typical side lane split pusher that just annoys you until you quit the game, because you can never catch the guy. He's too quick. He's just going to run away every time you try to attempt it. But he takes towers super duper quick. He is going with that Guardian keystone, which is pretty interesting because you don't get a lot of usage out of it in the jungle simply because you're never near another champion. But it does make your ganks potentially be tankier than you would really expect, because if you can get near your teammate and tank some of that damage, then you don't have to worry about it as much.
Yes, we'll see the pathing and decisions that this Brighton squad that they take throughout this game here. Of course, jungle having a tremendous impact in this pass. You want to be able to try and get your laners ahead and make those plays and make those ganks. So we'll see what comes through as we rotating through the different lanes here. A little bit of poke, but nobody going for anything really flashy yet. Definitely just early on trying to settle in. And well, you can see in the bot lane here, Clank is just pushing up and trying to zone off. Oh, but the pull from Blitz.
Yeah. Threatening that fourth shot, though, can almost win you every engagement there with this setup, though. We saw the Twitch very afraid of it, the Deadly Flourish coming out, but not really, it had timed out on the damage, so he wasn't able to get the snare. But that fourth shot is still super dangerous to play around with.
Yes, it is very difficult, and those rocket grabs from Blitz can be very, very dangerous. They have a ton of range, and they can absolutely catch a champion out, as we're seeing a perhaps setup here. Mumu just lurking in that bush. They're going to try and go in on it now, as Blitzcrank pulls in one into the tower, and as the re-engagement comes through, can Clank get away? He's going to be so hurt. Flash! Oh, it's going to drop. Blitzcrank will get credit for that. As the first play of the game is made, it goes the way of Palmyra. And here we go into the mid lane, as Destiny will immediately find an answer in the mid lane.
Just non-stop action across the map. Takedowns in every single lane except the top lane, and that is getting closer and closer the entire time. And it's... oh man, that was such a great hook coming out from Angel, you know, making sure that the Braum ended up under tower, taking a couple tower shots before the stand behind me was able to get him away from the danger. Amumu didn't even need to land his bandage toss. He was able to just be there, you know, soak up some of the damage from the Jhin so that they couldn't try and focus down, you know, the Blitzcrank. And the Ignite Poison combo coming in super clutch there, making sure that they had enough damage to take down Clank.
It was just barely enough for Palmac in that bottom lane, but we didn't really get too big of a look at it in the mid lane. We also saw the individual takedown here as I want to talk about it, but Omaha there in the top lane is just really pushing in against Frey. Frey, of course, boxed into his own tower on that Urgot. You can see the poke is so strong. We're just going to be forced to the recall, but Alman will go right back in and shut that down. Frey can do absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is shaping up to be a really, really tough top lane for the Cloud9 squad. You know, it's not what I would have expected. You know, the melee range matchup can be very one-sided, especially when you have this bruisery-style champion like the Urgot. You know, post-6, it could potentially swing back Urgot's favor, having, you know, the ultimate ability that does, you know, tremendous damage once you get below the 25% life threshold. But for now, it does seem like it is just going to be a very, very rough lane for Frey. But, I mean, this mid lane game as well, no fear being shown by Just Try. You know, did take the L a little early, but right back into that lane, pushing it back up again, just trying to farm and be relevant with the rest of the team.
That is one of the dangerous parts about this game, is when you do fall behind, it can get out of hand quickly. You don't want the enemy laners to snowball. As you see a great hook coming out there from Angel, will pull in the Braum, but is there any damage to follow? Kaner will just continue to go back. Not enough damage output, and Echo is going to be pushed up, and here comes comeback Matt. On that move will re-aggress into the bot lane, and now it's going completely back the other way. Another rocket grab from Angel will just be enough to pulling Flank. Is there enough damage? There is. Kaner will find one, and the flashback in from Angel, he's just going absolutely monstrous. Comeback Matt will get the Ignite, and it is enough. A great play from Palmac in the bot lane, but here we go. We're looking in now. The answer, as Destiny will get Just Try. Oh my goodness, huge impact plays across the board here.
Very, very concise gameplay down at the bottom.
As, oh my goodness, hold on, settle down. Settle down. You can see the power and the precision of that Aatrox in the top lane there. When he gets strong, he is absolutely dominating that top lane.
That scatter of the week was insane. You know, landed technically after the bandage toss there, so just the stun connected, but the Mumu didn't follow after it, which is pretty crazy. But that top side lane, very difficult so far, and I feel like it's only going to continue to get worse. I do like the decision to pick up some early Grievous Wounds from Frey Gaming, but it's one of those situations where it's not just the sustain that is being problematic. You know, the damage incoming is all equally, you know, troubling. But man, this bottom side has seen so much action. We've seen this Blitzcrank work out splendidly. You know, being able to land these rocket grabs consistently and seemingly at the right time. You know, what's could potentially start causing them trouble though is this Braum. You know, we've seen twice now, you know, Twitch being one stack away from being stunned and no longer being able to output damage.
Yes, that is one of the main issues you have as that Blitzcrank, right? When you feel like you can finally land that beautiful hook and pull people in, if there's no follow-up, you can't do that much damage on your own, so you're reliant on your duo partner there in the bot lane to output that damage. So we'll see if they can coordinate more, but for as much impact as Palmac has gotten out of that bot lane, really the answer from Brighton has been in the both middle and the top lane, right? Where twice now we have seen, you know, the answer when bottom's getting ganked, okay, well then I'm just going to gank mid and then try and force this game to go a different direction.
We can already see, you know, a jungle item completed here. And this top lane is just going from bad to worse.
There's nothing more frightening, perhaps, than 3008 Fox, who's already just about 40 CS ahead of his Destiny, will actually pick one up there in the mid lane as well. So Brighton, they're just absolutely going haywire here. Now they're aggressing in the bot lane as well. They're just pushing right into it. Now they're going to be forced to back off. Twitch able to output some of that damage, but my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, even getting the Spray and Pray ultimate out of Twitch there, you know, big cooldown being blown early, trying to just stay alive. But so many potions backing up Clank right now that he can be this aggressive, doesn't really have to worry about getting taken down, able to just sustain right back up. You can already see him back above the 50% HP bar. Meanwhile, Agently and Kaner still relatively low.
And that bot lane priority, you know, as we are setting up here, is going to have a huge impact, because you can see now, if you're looking on your minimap there, Udyr's sitting on that Drake, so he may be trying to get it started, but he has to be careful to not get caught out here. You can see the pings coming through. I think Palmac wants to contest, but do they have the priority to push up and do so? We're not sure as we watch Oman here on that Aatrox just outputting so much damage. Palmac will not be able to find an answer. The first objective will go the way of Brighton in that Drake.
Yeah, Ocean Drake, pretty huge buff. Sort of. It is like a 2.5% health regen when out of combat, so it does add up eventually. It's not as good as the old Ocean Drake, but I mean, that one was too good if you think about it. But another takedown in the top side. Omen is now rampaging through. Going to be picking up his third plate of the game as well. That is just so much gold going his way.
Yes, you can see that huge bounty being built up on his end. He is, without a doubt, dominating that lane. And once he's able to, you know, perhaps take down this first tower and start rotating through the other lanes, I think we may see Brighton really start to take this game out of hand a little bit. It feels as though when that Aatrox is that far ahead and he can have impact in other lanes, just watch out, because he might go absolutely nuclear.
And he's so difficult to take down once, you know, we get to that level. We can already see his item path coming in, you know, building lots of cooldown reduction to make sure that he can keep using, you know, his abilities, you know, on cooldown. Basically, we've seen him pop the ultimate now almost every single time it's available, just to go for these tower dives to get the takedowns. And now things are going from bad to worse once again.
Oh, his Burley will follow up on the flash there from Frey. Frey just simply doing everything in his power to try and get away. Oh, he's getting some help back from comeback Matt, as that one will get pulled back in. Frey gets the shutdown onto Udyr. And that is a huge play that could have been absolutely disastrous. So look now, bot side, here we go again. Some summoner spells being burned as Echo will just get dropped by Kaner. A double flash away, and Kaner is just going to go underneath. He's getting away from Clank as best he can, but that ward will just about catch him out. He dodges one, can he dodge more? He does get the knockup, but he cannot get away. It's the Jhin trap in the end.
That's actually crazy. That does not do a ton of damage this early on.
It certainly does not, but now we can see the impact. We talked about it earlier of Oman. Once he's able to switch out of those lanes, try and get some impact there. Oh my goodness. So many things happening there, left, right, and center. That was a huge play in the top lane by Matt to just come back through and help protect Frey there. That was huge play.
Yeah, huge shutdown going over as well, making great use of that execute ultimate. You know, being able to, you know, take down a carry when they get below 20% HP is huge. I mean, that's still a ton of HP if you think about it. Like, if you have 1,000 HP, they only need to get you to 250. Like, that is not that hard, especially when you have, you know, Twitch, Blitzcrank, Amumu, like lots of bursty style champions that can really catch somebody off guard.
As you can see, that a little bit of surprise set coming up from Kaner there. Oh, and the rocket grab from Aiden's going to be really good. He pulls in the Lucian, and he'll have to burn his flash to get away from this one. Clank now doing everything in his power to keep him away. That was very nearly disastrous. Brighton perhaps getting away with one there, as they will now Drop Shelly into the mid lane, try and push through. His Burley will get an engagement on 100, just try. A huge beatdown coming through. Burley will take a shot from the tower, he has to back away. But the pressure from the Rift Herald is so strong, that tower will drop. And Destiny finds one as we see, well, Oman, been a little bit of a repeat story with that Aatrox just finding another takedown.
Yeah, getting multiple charges off of the Herald as well, very, very huge.
Here we go again, comeback Matt will follow the flash out from Destiny, who had pushed up and try and follow up on that turret damage, will ultimately pay the price for it. So, wow, just so many different fights breaking out in different areas of the map here. Still, it's seemingly Brighton who are moving through with their game plan here. They're finding damage in good spots, but just maybe getting caught out a little bit in certain areas.
Yeah, they seem to be overstaying their welcome, recognizing that they are, currently ahead, and so, they are pushing things a little bit further than maybe they need to in a lot of situations. And so they are giving up some pretty large shutdowns to the enemy team, and so, we've seen the Urgot pick one up, we've seen Twitch be able to pick one up. These aren't small sums of money, and, they can definitely backfire if you give up enough of them. Twitch now having completed an item is not on par damage-wise with the Jhin, but at least item-wise and, money-wise seems to be on par after having, not the most stellar laning phase.
Oh my goodness. Angel, just stop it! The rocket grabs are so good. As he manages to land on typical Echo there, an extended trade coming through in the bot lane. I think if Palmac want to get back in this, it may have to be, once they just start to group together in this mid game, it may be on Angel there to just keep landing those rocket grabs as he goes for another.
And this champion is kind of built around that. There's a lot of, people that find Blitzcrank very frustrating to play against because of his, one game-changing ability button press that's not even an ultimate. So, I mean, he can, if he picks the Syndra or the Jhin, during an objective fight.
Oh, goodness, Destiny. My lord.
It can really change up a lot of things.
Well, you talk about perhaps changing it up, but we saw the damage impact of the Syndra right there just going absolutely haywire. Poor Matt stuck in his own jungle, not really able to find an answer as he will get dropped there. And look at the pressure coming out from Brighton. They have two champions already pushing that inhibited tower in the mid lane. It's going to force a response out of Palmac as we can tune that way now.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing these inhibitor turrets already fall under pressure very, early into the game, it seems. The Syndra so far ahead, 5-1-0, being able to just solo push these. Doesn't have to worry about her direct lane opponent, but, we've seen the Twitch be able to take advantage of it. We've seen, the Urgot be able to take advantage of, people overstaying and, getting caught out a little bit. And, they do have a very high scaling team on the Palmac squad. Urgot does eventually become very, tenable, and it can just really shove out the Aatrox if given enough time. Twitch, like I said, one of the all-time greatest late-game carries, being able to really push objective.
As we can see, this 2v2 matchup breaking out on the upside here. 3v2 make that as we get another champion in the mix here, but oh my goodness, Omar is going to put out so much damage on that Aatrox. He might be able to just simply 1v3, so he'll go back in. He'll get one, he'll get two, make it three. Absolutely absurd scenes as Destiny will actually pick up the pick onto the jungle, but my goodness, Oman's going absolute nuclear as we go into the bottom side now. Blank is just going to push up. He will get one onto Kaner. No follow-up onto Angel. And it has just been extremely volatile across the entire Rift.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing signs of life from the Twitch, though. They're taking the 2v2, going 1-for-1 against this Jhin that is, fairly far ahead damage-wise, not having to invest into attack speed, technically. And so, already having completed that Infinity Edge, going the straight at Dirk's second. I am curious what that builds into for him. typically the Jhin builds I've been seeing have an Infinity Edge, Stormrazor into Rapid Fire. So I am curious to see what he does decide to eventually build that into. It does open up some pathways, lethality-wise, being able to also pick up a lot of cooldown reduction so that he can, get more activations of his curtain call and, really try and control the zones around objectives. So there are options there. But for now, we have to really focus on getting the Twitch ahead if you're Palmac. That is the shining light right now, being able to output a ton of damage coming out of this stealth, vision. But you need to somehow control the Aatrox and the Syndra. They're both super duper far ahead.
Well, this is certainly one way to control the Syndra, as Just Try will earn the shutdown there. But Oman, well, there's your answer, right? If you can get one, that's great, but you cannot pick up both. 8-0-1 now, Oman is on that Aatrox, and well, you got one.
Yeah, and now they need to find a way to turn it into two. Thankfully, the Twitch's next item is going to be that Renan's Hurricane, so it does let you take down multiple members at the same time. But this Aatrox has so much, in the way of itemization, already having completed that Death Dance.
Oh, and here we go in the bot lane. Angel just not able to land that Q. Is going to take some sustained damage there as Clank and Typical Echo. They'll get the pick onto Fry. He will not survive that matchup there. As now Angel is forced to retreat back under a tower. There's just so much pressure being put on by this Brighton team. And they're just going to go straight in past the tower. They're going to try and find the engagement here on a Twitch. Clank is going to try and peel for Typical Echo. It's not enough though. He pops his ultimate. Can he get it? Kaner will dodge as much as he can, and ultimately Jhin manages to survive that. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, right now, Palmac needs to focus on wave clear duty. They need to just, try and survive, sacrifice the outer turrets if need be, make sure that they're getting as much money as possible.
Oh my goodness. Oman is just applying so much pressure here as Destiny will end up finding the pick onto Kaner there in this bottom lane. They're just trying to defend these turrets, defend their towers, and yeah, for Palmac, it's seemingly a struggle going forward. I just don't know if they have the damage output and the sustain to go against both the Syndra and the Aatrox, who, between the two of them, are just absolutely lighting this game on fire.
Things are looking pretty rough as a comeback. Third dragon of the game going down over to Brighton. One more, they do get that Earth Soul that does give them a bonus shield every couple of seconds. Being able to just be that much tankier and potentially not, get taken down in awkward spots again.
Well, they'll have to find another answer here, as we will see the second coming of Shelly. She'll get popped right in front of this middle inhibitor turret. That turret will fall, and they have to be very careful here. Palmac, they're just might get caught out. Angel will try and pull in Clank, but it's no good there. The damage is so high, it's just so much to deal with. Typical Echo will end up getting the pick onto Just Try. That is a takedown there. It will be an inhibitor to fall in the middle lane, and Brighton, well, they're just going full steam ahead.
Taking down the middle inhibitor with the help of their big purple friend there. Brighton do seem to be on the right track. The next play is definitely going to be that Baron buff. They don't have any vision control of it just yet. They have those deep wards, however, in Palmac's jungle, making sure that they know exactly where everybody is. Jhin getting a little bit of vision, using those traps in order to just try and secure some vision. We see some buffoonery. Yeah, buffoonery happening in the Brighton squad. The jungler pinging his top laner away from the camps. In the communications, he's saying, "You have 9 takedowns. You don't need my chickens. Please stop it." But, Aatrox top lane players in general, they don't listen to their junglers a lot. It's just what they do.
They tend to, you know, work on that island, right? It's a very much a 1v9 position at times. And, you know, in fairness to Udyr here, he is actually out-CSing his top laner by a small margin. You can see on the scoreboard there. He's outpacing him by 2 CS, so I think he's maybe a little bit protective. He just wants to make sure he stays ahead CS-wise.
Which, when you think about it, it's kind of impressive, because all jungle camps are worth 4 CS on the scoreboard. So even Krugs, when you take down what seems like 30 different minions, it still only counts as 4. But when you take down red buff, that also counts as 4. So the numbers are a little skewed.
Oh, and here we go. Palmyra they will pick up the Baron, and they're going to try and take this fight here as well. This could be the end of the game if they're not careful. Oh, but goodness, Cannon will get Clark on the takedown there. Another trade coming through. Typical Echo on a killing spree, and it's Destiny who will close this one out. If Just Try is the last man standing, it's no good. It's a double for Oman as well. A pure ace for Palmyra, and they will go through and certainly at this point end this game.
Yeah, definitely enough to end there. You know, having the super minion as well as the Baron buff, you can see just how quickly these towers get taken down. The Nexus not far behind it, and that is going to be Brighton picking up game 1.
And what an incredible performance we just witnessed from Brighton. Of course, we can talk a lot about Oman, right, and that Aatrox and that super carry in the top lane, but I really think all 5 members of that team played really well. You know, Destiny doing huge work on the Syndra, and even we saw the Udyr jungle, right, making plays across the map. So they did what they had to do, and that's a very convincing victory in game 1.
Yeah, and I mean, they didn't necessarily have the advantage when it comes to picks either. You know, the Syndra's Galio matchups kind of Galio-sided. You know, built-in magic resist and being able to, you know, be very quick on the draw with that crowd control and try and force the Syndra to play a certain way. You know, we saw the Syndra just being so bullish, being able to make, you know, the lane theirs and take over the game. Then again, on the top side, like I talked earlier, we had the melee ranged matchup, which can be extremely difficult to work through, but the Aatrox very on point, landing those Q, you know, max points, getting the knockup, getting the most damage available out of it, and then just pushing through that entire lane with a little help from the jungler, and even the bottom lane, which seemed to struggle a little bit against that Twitch Blitz combination, you know, losing a couple of the 2v2s even went ahead. So I mean, the whole team really worked together, you know, as a cohesive unit, making sure that they were able to take down the objectives and make sure that they, you know, didn't overstay and throw away too much of their lead.
Yes, and I really like the adjustments they made in their macro play, right? When, especially early on in the game, we saw comeback Matt, you know, on the side of Palmyra there, you know, on that Amumu, making plays into that bottom lane, right? So when that happens, what's your answer? Well, let me go into the mid lane and then get my Syndra ahead, or let me, you know, rotate topside as well and try and get my Aatrox going as well. You know, it's a game of trade-offs and a game of strategy in that sense, and I think they did really well to answer the questions that Palmyra proposed to them early.
Yeah, and so now as we head into game 2, because this is a best of 3, there are still 2 more chances for Palmyra to make a comeback and, you know, eventually walk away champions. I do expect to see some changes in the draft. Maybe ban away the Aatrox or pick a tankier top laner. It feels like I've been, you know, going on tirades for the last couple of weeks talking about these tank top laners, but they really are the key to victory. You know, when you pick up an Ornn or a Maokai, somebody that just exists and does so much for your team, it's really hard to not advocate to just plug and play around that. You know, stop worrying about these potential skill matchups and just win the game.
Winning the game is what it is all about. That is, of course, the objective here coming up for game number 2. But ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break before we go into that second game. Stay tuned with us here on PlayVS. We'll be back in just a moment.
I think a lot of students have just gotten another sense of how to belong and how to create relationships outside of what were the traditional avenues.
And a lot of my students talk about how they feel safe in the esports program, and that's their family, that's their community. And I think that esports gives kids a future that they might otherwise not have.
man, I wish that had been available when I was in high school.
One of the greatest things is getting an email about how excited a parent is that their student is involved and is having a great time and wants to talk about their esports experience. I've always been a gamer. I usually wanted to play the single-player role-playing games and the WoW and StarCraft. I didn't really know a lot about esports. I didn't realize the extent of how large it was. Our athletic director walked into my office. He's like, just watch this video. It was a promo reel that said, esports is coming or something, games to be announced, and it was this hype video. And I was like, we have to do this. He's like, I don't have a coach. I was like, oh. When do we start? How do we do this? I would say that I'm actually stepping into the students' field. This was especially the case in season 0 and 1 with the seniors who had been playing for years. I was there to coach in the sense of be an organizer, be an encourager, be there to try and instill the elements of sportsmanship and athletic conduct. But I know and recognize that some of these players know more about these sports than I do. And I can let them be teachers as well to the new kids. And so having that relationship, that partnership with those students has been really important. It's been really exciting to be on the beginning of this program to say, let's see what happens and see where it goes and learn along the way and have an outlet for students who have many, many different interests, but maybe this one aspect of what they love doing hasn't really been given an outlet yet. And to say, we know you love all these other sports, but you're also really talented at this, or you want to be talented at this, and you can. And there's an avenue for that. The reception from parents has been fun in its own right. Parents say esports, like, what is this, video gaming? And the answer is, yeah, it is. That's the entry point. But I'd love for you to come to practice or check out some of these videos and these stats and let me show you the difference that we're trying to create here. When a parent comes and sees a game, specifically like League of Legends, from start to finish and goes, I had no idea that that's the level of intensity and the level of dedication that it takes to play one game and the endurance that it takes to do this and to communicate as a team. Like, I had no idea. Seeing that reception and that flip is really exciting, because then they're all in. It's been interesting to see the elements of other traditional sports, communication skills, sportsmanship, conduct, planning, strategy, skill, and mental athleticism. All of these things feed into creating an esports program and creating students into athletes. It's just been really fun to watch them progress really, really fast by having that team dynamic to fall upon.
I was always told growing up, it's gonna rot your brains, it's a waste of time, and then like now I see where esports is at, and my family and I at home, we watch the League of Legends Championship. One of the students here at BC, he came to me and said, hey, we're really interested in starting an esports team. Like, BC needs an esports team, and can you help us? I was a little bit apprehensive because I did not play video games and I wasn't sure what it would all entail. But then that same student came to my door almost every day the first week of school and said, have you talked to the principal? What's going on with the esports team? It's really because of the students. They were the ones that I felt like, because they're so interested, I think I can do this. My team, they never played League of Legends before, and them going from starting out just at the basic beginnings to now they're in the 30s and seeing how their team work, they're strategizing, and they've basically taken ownership of our team and run with it. It's been fantastic. At our school, leadership is really encouraged and admired among the students. With esports, my students get an opportunity in a different way than what maybe traditionally would be thought of as this is a leadership role you would have. So we have a team captain, we also have a team coach, and they really work really well with the students to kind of bring them together, and they are the ones that outside of school, they're practicing. We get 3 hours of practice a day. They come in at 7 a.m. in the morning and they're waiting for me. They're like, hey, we're ready to go. Can we come in? Can we practice? Originally, we were practicing 3 days a week, and they were like concerned they weren't getting enough practice. They were like, can we do more? Can we squeeze in another day? So they wanted to do 5 days a week, but I was like, let's start with 3, let's build up to 4, and if we make it to playoffs, then we'll go to 5. They are just so motivated to kind of like take ownership of it. They basically decide beforehand what their bands are, who's doing what position, because I really would not have that kind of knowledge. And even though I don't play as much as they do, you know, you have to admire somebody who's built up their skill set. They've had to put in a lot of time and energy in order to be so good. And then when I play, I go like, wow, this is a lot harder than it looks. It has been wonderful watching how good my students have gotten in such a short amount of time.
Welcome back, everybody, to the show here on PlayVS. Again, my name is Perino. I am joined by Doctor on the desk. Doctor, we just saw a convincing Game 1 performance here from the Brighton Barons. They have put themselves in a position, I think, for an excellent Game 2. If everything goes to plan for them, they're looking to take home this title as quick as they can.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a pretty convincing Game 1. You know, that top lane Aatrox, very difficult to deal with once it gets snowballing. Really just kind of ran through the top side. You know, objectives, being able to get both Rift Heralds is pretty impactful too. You know, they used the first one to just run through the mid lane, getting both the first tower and then a charge onto the tier 2. Then the second Heralds there broke the base open, got access to that middle inhibitor. And then after a big fight around the Baron Pit, they were able to take down, you know, the Nexus. But, you know, it was a team effort across the board there for Brighton, you know, making sure everybody played their part. And heading into Game 2, it's really on Palmac to make this draft work for them. You know, they don't have to worry about as much once it comes to the game. They can just pick their champions, focus on, you know, what their champion does, and then, you know, make a team effort to get us to a Game 3.
Yes, we will see the answers that they come up with in the draft phase. We'll be pulling that up for you in just a moment. We do have all the players in the lobby, and going through the motions here, we're going to switch over to our draft board. And I'm really interested in seeing for Palmac, you know, how do they answer both the middle and top lanes, right? Do you just directly, you know, go and take away the champions, or do you try and, you know, just go for more straight counter picks? We'll see what they come up with.
So it depends on how much they value their Game 1 bans. They're sticking with the Vladimir so far, so that does seem to be just an all-out ban this champion. Draven was also on the list earlier. There it is, right up on the screen there. Again, another champion that is just so difficult to stop. You know, they get to a certain point where it's just really tough to make sure that the champion stops being a problem once they get going. But I do like the addition from Brighton High here, banning away that Blitzcrank.
Yes, we saw how effective the Palmac support was, especially in the lane phase, at landing those rocket grabs. Of course, Blitzcrank, widely regarded one of the annoying champions perhaps to play in lane against, and well, we see it there from Palmac. They do elect, they're just removing Aatrox straight from the game.
Yeah, I think it's the correct decision. It opens up, you know, different potential top lane matchups. You can still get a lot of top lane carry champions. You know, there's still Camille, Fiora, Darius is available as well. You know, some of these really hard, you know, to lane against top lane champions. We do get Volibear, Yasuo as the first rotation. Brighton, though, you know, synergy right off the bat. Air, lightning, combos mix tornado. That's going to be very difficult for Palmac to really, you know, battle through. I am curious if that's a lane Volibear or if it's going to be a jungle Volibear. Both pretty viable. But I would probably put him in the top side, especially now that you see a Maokai. Don't really have to worry about much, and you get all that juicy lane farm to back up the champion.
Yes, and we see now the 80 carry picks coming through as well. Of course, we're seeing the return of the Jhin on Palmac, who I thought played well overall in that last game. So I think it's a you know, a strong champion to return to. Of course, Jhin, very, very good, very standard pick. And I like that Tristan on the other side as well, definitely offering something different from the Twitch.
I do think that it's very nice now that the teams are focusing on the supports as well. You know, we saw that Jhin Braum combo. I don't know why I just phased out for a second. But the Jhin Braum combo was very dangerous to deal with. But the Twitch Blitzcrank had its own fight back through it. Now that Palmac doesn't have access to the Twitch or the Blitzcrank, they pick up the Jhin, but everything else is being banned away. You know, they don't have a Leona, a Veigar, a Thresh to back up their new Jhin player. So it is curious what we're going to be seeing. Brighton High, though, locks in that Lux, another, you know, mid support style champion that we're going to have to decide on or figure out where it's going. The Nico Amumu pick, I'm going to be honest with you. I went through this whole draft just going along with Tarek top. But we knew who the Jin's partner was going to be this whole time, and I just was like, it's Tarek top. That's where the champion goes. But no, that is not correct, folks. It is Tarek bottom lane, and it is going to be Tarek Jin, the new bot lane for Palmac, with Brighton's being this Tristana, Yuumi. I think that's a pretty interesting lane in its own right.
Yes, and now, of course, with Brighton, there are so many different ways that they can go about doing this. In fact, I'm wondering how they want to do this, because so many of those champions can actually play so many different roles. Obviously, Yumi's probably the only exception where she's definitely a support champion, but Brighton giving themselves a ton of flexibility where they want to go. I think that makes the matchups very interesting in the sense that there's a lot of flexibility in that team composition. There's tons of mobility. You've got great synergy, of course, with the Yasuo Volibear. This could be electrifying from Brighton if pulled off well.
Yeah, it's a very win-harder team composition too, right? Like, once this team gets ahead, there really is no stopping them. The Yasuo just going to be doing too much damage. The Volibear is going to be undealable with. It's not really English, but he just gets so tanky, right? And he does so much damage. He'll build a Titanic Hydra. He'll really be able to punish people getting caught out of position, not just with that flip and the Thunderous Roar into Yasuo combo, but even solo, he is not to be threatened with. Having that bonus damage on missing health on his W, along with the bonus attack speed as it ramps up. He's very dangerous start to finish, and nigh untakedownable because of that health regen passive that really is a mini Mundo ultimate that we've seen been used to great effect in this last week. And then Lux, getting her ultimate cooldown down to like 25 seconds, and then having half of it reset on takedown. Very difficult to really combat, that style of play, and Yuumi just does everything. The champion's so hard to deal with because it's bouncing around from champion to champion, zooming in up the Volibear to make sure that he gets into the fray even faster for those flips, and then having that hard lockdown ultimate as well that seemingly is unescapable unless you have your flash available. But Palmac does have their own series of strengths to go with them. They do have that Maokai that I was talking about earlier, in that, very stable top lane tank that just exists, really makes it difficult for your the opposing team to really egress forward, locking them down, being very aggressive with that twisted advance, and being able to just knock out, the people that he needs to. And then Jin Nico is a very interesting composition if they can combo their lockdown and transition that into even more damage. The Jin, obviously we saw last game, he does damage. Nico, however, not something we've seen played in quite a while, but still does just tons and tons and tons and tons of damage. But first blood already going to be going down over to that Volibear in the jungle. That's tough to see. You hate to see it.
Yes, that is. We talked about an electrifying team comp from Brighton here, and that's an electrifying start for them, as before we even get our waves crashing, we have this, quick little invade on the bot side there, of course, that Palmac player just simply getting caught out in a rough spot, and well, it's such a huge tilt effect, right, if you're Palmac, because you already lost the game 1 and you're just resetting in game 2, and that happens to you within 60 seconds. That's tough.
Yeah, we see Omen being able to go back and pick up a long sword before his buff is even spawned. It's going to give him that much more clearing power. Doesn't even have to worry about, getting as low in the jungle to stave off any potential invade. Not that a Mumu's really going to be invading the jungle. It's just not really designed for that. Never really has been. This top lane, though, something we used to see quite a bit of. Maokai, Yasuo. Yasuo can't really deal with a whole lot of what Maokai brings to the table. Only has the one projectile in his sapling, but you're going to be wanting setting those up in bushes anyway, so there's not really much to win wall.
We can see there, even despite that, of course, Oman, well, just doing Oman things at the top lane there, is he's really already established pretty good amount of pressure in that top lane. We can see Destiny as well. finding some poke on that Lux in the mid lane. We did mention how flexible this team composition was from Brighton. You can see the Yasuo going top, the Lux in the middle, volley in the jungle. All sorts of different ways you can do it, but that's the setup they elected to go for here, so we'll see how that shakes out for them.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, the team composition does have a fair amount of synergy. Well, with the Yumi Zumis being able to get, you know, Volibear in and out very effectively, the lockdown coming in from pretty much every member of the squad. You know, Omen on the Yasuo probably has the least amount of CC just due to, you know, his Tornado being the only portion of the kit that really does anything crowd control-wise.
Oh, and here we go. That CC from Palmac is very strong. The next go down onto Echo, and is it enough? It will be. AJ will find that takedown there, and so the answer is there for Palmac in that bottom lane. Credit to them. They found those consecutive stuns, and it worked out just fine.
Yeah, really not respecting that fourth shot. You know, it really chunks people out, and, you know, I don't know how many times we have to see Jhin at level 2 getting takedowns to really start respecting it. It's so good. And it's really, like, I say that, but it really is unexpected just because of how much damage it does. You know, it's a guaranteed critical strike. You never expect it. It just kind of shows up, and all of a sudden a third of your HP is missing.
As we can see, Angel again going back in for more will actually land that CC, and it's going to force that Tristana-Yumi combo back all the way back under their tower. So already you can see some of the changes that Palmac have applied in this game to are starting to come to fruition. His comeback, Matt, will jump right onto Destiny in the mid lane. No takedown there, but certainly a good chunk of damage. That was a dangerous spot.
Yeah, really bold to hold on to both of the summoners there from Destiny, though. You know, not feeling the danger from the Amumu gang, just making sure that, you know, they stay alive and don't worry about too much. That lane, though, is kind of rough for the Lux. Lux is one of those champions that kind of needs a little bit before they can really start wave clearing. You know, we know Lux as a wave clear style champion.
As we can see here, comeback Matt, well, he's defending his jungle. He's trying to take down Burly Burger, but look at the tankiness on that volley. It's going to burn a flash from Matt. He tries to go away. Oh, no, but those will not land. Burly gets to take down to comeback Matt. We look at the bot lane now as typical Echo is going to try and take down Kaner, and it's just not enough. Jhin will get that one. As we look at our minimap here, another trade coming out in the jungle, so all sorts of action. Clank just caught out is Yumi. This will not end well. As finally they will get that Yumi to fall. Kaner with the credit. And wow, what a quick series of trades there.
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar to last game from what we saw. Palmac's bottom lane being able to get an advantage early on, you know, really try and push their champions to the limit. Meanwhile, the rest of the map kind of fading out the same. We have very early jungle takedowns coming in for Burger. You know, he gets the one-on-one in the jungle and, you know, barely survives that. Does eventually go down to Tri-Please, though. So pretty much what we expected. The top lane, though, you know, we see Frey Gaming really surviving so much better than last game. You know, not being taken down very early on is in a bit of a rough spot right this second, but overall seems to be doing a little bit better.
Yes, and it will be that, you know, just simply not falling to the enemy champion that makes a huge difference, right? Even if you're behind, and you can see it statistically as well. I said it and I cursed it. Oman will find the entry there in the top lane, but it is obviously a much lower return for Oman at this point. In the last game, Oman was absolutely steamrolling that lane. He's still winning, but it's not by as much of a margin.
Yeah, I mean, that was just kind of the consequences of, you know, Omen hitting level 6 first, having access to that ultimate ability before Frey was, you know, having those extra stats, but also just having the presence of mind to just constantly be poking down with that Tornado, you know, making sure that there's no portion of sustain available for Frey Gaming, who right now, walking back into lane with no potions, is really relying on the passive regeneration there, you know, being able to get some health back every 5 spells that have been, you know, burned. And so, you know, between the Yasuo spamming spells, the Maokai spamming spells, it has a pretty high uptime.
We'll see, of course, how well Fry can do in that top lane there against Oman, trying to get that wave rolling towards the other turret, away from his own. And one thing that's interesting as well was that we saw a bit of a movement there from Palmyra a little bit earlier to try and set up for perhaps a Baron take, or excuse me, Dragon take, but that will just be Kaner finding one. But Broly's going to come right back out for the jungle. It will be Typical Echo who picks up the pick onto Azel there, and Kaner's doing everything in his power to try and get away. He's walking, and just gets to his tower. Will they dive? They will. Burley's going to drop, though. He doesn't have the HP to survive, and now the ultimate will almost pick up Tristana. Can they land it? No! Oh my goodness. This is such a dangerous proposition. As Lux is now rotating in from that mid lane, she's going to go for it. And she just lands it, but she's going to pay the price here. Maybe, as she is ignited and tries to flash away. Just try. Splits on the Nico. And gets her down to 1 HP. She's so close, but she lands a tremendous Q. Oh, Destiny, just stop it. That's so rude. The blue buff, barely enough. And she'll just walk away. That's absolutely incredible.
That is so huge for the team, too. They got the huge shutdown on the Kaner there, putting it into Destiny's hands, making sure that that bonus gold is not going to be put to waste, and then surviving just by burning the flash. Still had barrier, too, that whole time, I believe. Just didn't feel like spending it.
Certainly an adventurous play there, as we see Oman now in the top lane. Will just go in as Yasuo, and it's so much damage. In typical Yasuo style, will just go right in. Palmac will find the Drake. And this is still a very even game, but it's just been so volatile. These trades have just gone back and forth across both teams here.
Yeah, picking up the first dragon, though, very huge for Palmac, making sure that they get those bonus resistances to go along with the, just tons of armor and magic resist that there are going to be naturally building to try and win these style of matchups. Really going to be having to rely on the Jhin, however, to really come out ahead this game. Already 4-1.
Well,
lots of
almost
damage.
4-1-1. But not doing enough damage, unfortunately, to save his partner in crime in the bot lane there. That will be Typical Echo, of course, picking that one up against the Taric. So, yeah, we just mentioned it. These really go back and forth, but... Oh, here we go again in the mid lane. It's going to be Palmac trying to make a play here onto Destiny, who cannot get away twice in a row. That will be the pick there. As Burlyburger will drop the Rip Herald into the top lane. It's sort of just, well, watching is Fry, who's in a bad spot now. 2v1. Will try to get away, but it won't go. It doesn't get over the wall. Oman will pick that one up as we transition back into the bot lane here. This legitimate ultimate will not land on Tristana. She uses a hop, skip, and a jump to get away. And now it's just comeback map trying to stop Shelly on the turret. Will nearly give up his life for it. Burly will flash back in, actually, and take that down. So it is Brighton building the pressure topside, but conceding on the lower side.
They do get the passive out of the Volibear. They are going to end up losing the tower eventually. But, I mean, that's just so much pressure being applied by Omen in the top lane on this Yasuo pick. It is traditionally difficult to deal with, being able to dash through all the minions, and really quite annoying with the double passive. Always having the shield available, it seems. But once again in the bot lane, trading so closely back and forth. Even now, the Jhin falling a little bit behind, it seems. Not able to win these trades as effectively as he had been earlier. And you can kind of chalk that up to just the Yuumi being such a presence with the Zoomies, keeping her AD carry topped up and ready for battle at any moment. Whereas the Jhin does need a little bit more help, is going to be going back to base to complete his first item, however.
Yes, of course, looking to get that power spike when you do complete those items. It is largely a game of economics. We could talk a little bit about it here. It's very close, but Brighton also building a gold advantage as well. You can see at the top of the screen. There's just about a 5k gold difference as well. Oman will just continue to go absolutely in. Nothing will stop him here. There are no turrets for Fry to fall back on, and he will get dropped. Oman now 4-0-2 and building up that bounty, looking to build upon a repeat performance here of his Game 1 success. He's finding it in Game 2.
Yeah, and it's up to the rest of this Palmac team to do their best to get ahead on their own. They do have the assistance of Comeback Matt, who has been seemingly everywhere.
But this may be problematic. That's actually a great stun from the Nico, but it's just followed up by another tremendous stun from Destiny. Just quick even trids there. Gonna get locked up. Comeback Matt trying to get away, but Typical Echo will just flash back under the tower.
Oh no!
Oh, but having a hard time getting away. That turret is just gonna push it right back into Fry, and now she's reliant on trying to stay alive with the Zoomies and the healing. Her team will not quite save her, but they do get the trade, so Brighton, they do manage to pick up the 1-for-1 in that spot. That is so unfortunate to not get that hop back over the wall.
Yeah, that's an awkward situation mechanic-wise.
Oh goodness, here we go again. This is another skirmish breaking out in the bot lane here as all of Brighton that are up on the rift are just in this spot. The ultimate from Yumi will just lock under tower. There's nothing Kaner can do there. They're just diving right in, finding the takedowns where they want. It is Brighton asserting themselves here, and it looks like they'll be setting up for another take on the Drake.
Yeah, I mean, this would be their first of the game, and Ocean Drake once again would be pretty big for them. Having all of this downtime in between skirmishes really benefits them as they transition from fight to fight. They would have been gaining that 2.5% HP in between that mid tower dive and that bottom tower dive. It makes, the second one so much, cleaner. You don't have to worry about having your health bar as low. But, I mean, just very great teamwork coming out of this Brighton team, always having each other's back and diving down at the same time, not leaving anybody else to dry.
And what's really nice from Brighton, I think, in this game, and you mentioned it there, is the teamwork. You can see the results are just so spread across. You can see, on the scoreboard there on the bottom, the Yasuo, Volibear, and the Lux in that order. And the Tristana as well. The takedowns are very much spread out, right? So it's not just one person really going in, going 9-0-1. It's spread across the entire team, which is good to see. I think it'll help them stay ahead in this whole game here. But Palmac trying to make a play here on Typical Echo, who's currently stuck under his own tower. It is 3 champions to 1. They will try and push up here, Palmac, but not able to accomplish much as well. That turret is just going to keep firing and firing if they stay under it.
Yeah, I mean, they made the correct play to try and push the Tristana away.
Oh, but here we go. Oman will just try and take the pure 2v1, but he will not get dropped yet. He turns it around almost. Fry is going to go down to Burley instead. That is an even trade there in that topside river. As now we take a look again at the bot lane, just fights breaking out left, right, and center. Typical Echo will hop in and follow up with getting that Yumi Zumi. Kaner using that heal, trying to get away. It's a good spot there as Destiny burns an ultimate, but it will not find. Oh, and here comes a Boo-Boo. Just turning the fight right back around. And he's just going to do so much damage onto that Lux. And nearly gets her to half. Now Jin popping the ultimate, trying to land those last touches on Destiny, but can't find him. Comeback Matt, though, is going to burn the flash and get away, but he's dropped by Typical Echo regardless. Oh my goodness. The aggression and re-aggression coming back out. Brighton, they do manage to turn that one in their favor. But man, it's just been a bit of a mess there in the bot lane as we see it continuing to break out once more. Echo is in a rough spot here, trying to get away from too many players perhaps. He's so low and he finally will get dropped by AHL. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at that stuff from Destiny. Every time I think they're going to stop, they go back in. And finally, it seems we get a break.
Yeah, so much to really kind of try and unpack there.
Oh, here we go again. Destiny will just pop the ultimate. Oh, you thought the Lux was stopped, but she was not. Just turn around and hit R and take down everyone in your way. Of course, bolstered by that Yumi there to stay alive. Credit to her, but my goodness, that is something.
Yeah.
I can't even keep up with it. It's every time I try to describe it, there's just another takedown popping up on my feed.
It is constant, non-stop action. We are nearing the 2 takedown a minute break point that some of the LPL leagues kind of have.
Well, we're going to get another dive attempt here from Brighton as well. Angel is just sitting on the tower, will actually stay alive and nearly gets Burley, who's under so much duress. There will be a follow-up and a takedown there, as now we look topside. Oman in a pure 1v1 against Fry will get the knock-up there on the on that Maokai, and it will be enough. We see on the feed, Jin finds a double, and okay, overall 2 for 2, kind of spread out. This is just craziness at the moment.
And one thing to point out is it does seem like the Maokai's kind of getting smashed. Oh man, it never ends. It does look like the Maokai's having. It does look like the Maokai's having a really tough time with the Yasuo. But we can see in his items that he's already built a Bramble Vest. And so throughout that fight in the top side, we saw that Omen was actually cut down to about 40% HP, only between the Bramble Vest and that Sunfire cape. So there is hope at the end of the tunnel. You know, so far we do see, you know, a point where the Yasuo just doesn't, you know, automatically win that lane. You know, we're getting to a point where there is a potential break point for him to just survive and, you know, outlast the Yasuo.
That's an interesting point as well. We haven't, you know, these engagements have been very spread out across the Rift, right? We haven't really seen a true 4v4 or 5v5 as well. Here we go again, and Burley will get a little bit caught out there, and the re-engage is going to come off a typical Echo. He's just going to hop right in with the Yumi, but will get rooted. Fry will actually find that pick onto Echo, and the chase is on now for Palmac as they're going to go into the enemy jungle, trying to catch up to Burley, being assisted by the Yumi, but the root is so big, and Angel will actually just barely escape. Fry's going to ultimately go down here in the 3v1, but will buy enough time for Angel on that Taric to finally get away. The stuns will keep them off just enough. Oh no! Right at the end of the recall. That's absolutely absurd. Burley going to be ignited but will not drop as Oman tries to go 3v1 there on the bot side. Here we go, continuing on the re-aggression coming back out, and Destiny will find one. Nico finds a shutdown, and it is Brighton that does get a 4-for-1 across the board.
With another dragon on the map as well. Just huge team fights going the way of Brighton, making sure that they are able to pick up these map objectives as well. Volibear can definitely solo the dragon there, and then the two, the Lux combo is definitely going to be able to take out the bot lane tier 1 tower, get a little bit more gold and a little bit more map pressure available for the team. And I mean, these team fights are very long and drawn out. You know, we see how long it does take them to still take down the Maokai, who is only at 2 items. It is only going to get, you know, harder from here as well. So, I mean, there is a point, like I was saying, where Maokai does become unstoppable. He really just becomes this massive frontline tank that nobody can really take down, except for, say, the Yasuo, who, you know, we can already see has built the QSS, going to be picking up the Mercurial Scimitar to just, you know, try and escape all of the crowd control that Palmac does have available to them between the Amumu, the Nico, the Taric. Every member of that squad has a form of hard crowd control that is QSS-able. So the Quicksilver Sash really coming in handy there. We saw it, you know, used to great effect at the end of the last play, where he was able to get his last breath off under the tower.
Sorry, Destiny. What was that? Finding a pure takedown in the mid lane there was Destiny. Managed to land that Lux Q. And at this stage of the game, of course, Lux, you know, on that Luden's Echo and just building up that magic damage. is so strong. When she just pops that ultimate, it goes absolutely haywire. Zoman here is going to try nearly a 1v3. He will go in, but he's going to get chunked for half HP. That is a huge amount of damage as he just dashes and dances around, but it won't be enough. Kaner will ultimately find the takedown there. And things are looking up here for Palmac. If you're going to try and take that one, you want to try and find it onto Oman, but here we go again. Brighton just instantly turned it around. That is 2 players there being dropped. Both Kaner and Angel will fall, so just an immediate response there from Brighton. Credit to him.
And that does bring us to 44 takedowns, which for the next 5 seconds does have us at 2 takedowns a minute.
That's a lot. For those wondering at home, that is a
it's not traditional League of Legends.
It's certainly something to behold. We're having a difficult time keeping up with it all up here in the booth. Hopefully the players down there on the Rift are able to keep a level head still, because if you're Palmac in this spot, you're obviously fairly far behind. The issue, I think, for them becomes, even if they can get individual picks in certain spots, the follow-up isn't there, where, you know, they're still taking extended trades and they're still, you know, ultimately losing. You know, we saw a great example of that as well. Here we go again. Excuse me. I was trying to make a point, but Burley's just going to try and go into 1v4. He has a ton of sustain. Will it be enough? It will not, but Destiny picks up one with a huge ultimate there on Lux. Echo finds another onto Kaner, but here we go. Fry's just going to absolutely push Destiny out of the picture, and the follow-up here from Angel is just trying to smack typical Echo down. Is it enough? No. Yumi comes back in with some huge healing, but that one will be enough.
Yeah, I mean, Tarek, not something to shake a stick at, does have quite a bit of damage there with that giant mace of his.
Oh,
all
goodness.
Right, not enough. Stays alive. Doesn't even have any magic resist either, so that makes it doubly surprising.
Well, we talk about the, you know, the tankiness of that Maokai, and that's a great example of it there. You know, facing that Lux ultimate and not being dropped there is impressive in its own right. But that is a dangerous game to play for Palmac, who are not in a good spot at the moment. We saw Oman on that Yasuo just pushing it all the way into that topside inhibitor, so they will get the super minion spawning through that top lane. And now it's just a question of where the fights drop, as Destiny gets one, as the Yumi will actually stun 2, but here comes the counter ultimate from Jin. They're just going to try and land these shots onto Destiny, but look at the healing from Yumi as well. Lux just simply refusing to go down, but here's the chain CC. Oh, and the flash comes out. Will Destiny have enough to get away? No, ultimately Jin finds that takedown. Will they manage to get the Yumi as well? They will not, because here comes the re-aggression. Oman finds one. Multiple flashes being burned away there. Ultimate's just going to try and go in on Fry, who has so much tankiness. In this 2v1 spot, though, it won't be enough. I think. Maybe. There we go. Yumi actually picking up the credit for that one.
Things are getting a little interesting. The 4th dragon of the game has now made its way to the Rift. As we all know, it is going to be Cloud Dragons from here on out. That is the soul of this game, is that Cloud Dragon. 10% bonus cooldown on your ultimate is what the dragon brings you. If you do collect the soul along with it, it does give you bonus movement speed off of your ultimate, or once you use your ultimate. And looking at this Brighton squad, it does impact them quite well, sort of, actually. Volibear loves it. Yasuo could probably not. He uses it a little bit. Lux and Yumi obviously get no usage out of it whatsoever. Yumi not really being her own champion, so she doesn't need her movement speed.
Oh my goodness, Destiny. You can see the amount of damage output from that Lux there, but she's going to be in a tough spot here. It's going to cause Clank to burn the ultimate on that Yumi as she dips and dashes away, but the aggression comes from comeback Matt. He's going to try and slow down that Voller, but look at the sustain from Burley Burger. He just won't get dropped. He's going to take down Fry, And here we go, Brighton. They're just going to go absolutely in here. Oman finds Angel up top. Kaner's going to try and help out, but will pay the price. Clank is on a killing spree on that Yumi. Yasuo finds the double. It's an ace for Brighton.
And that could actually be enough to close out the game. This would close out the series as well, giving Brighton the 2-0 victory if they are able to secure it. But it does look like Try Please is going to get taken down for an ace once again, unfortunately. But that will... Actually, I just can't tell. They might have the minions. Yeah, alright. With that going down, yeah, they definitely have enough left in the tank.
Well, Burley not quite looking to end it here, and Oman just trying to duel against Sprite, but ultimately the auto attacks will just build up on that Nexus turret, and congratulations to Brighton. They will be your champions here today for this New York State League of Legends final. Congratulations to them. That was some kind of performance. Game 2 a little bit crazy, but they ended up coming out ahead.
Yeah, I mean, another pretty dominant victory coming out from the Brighton High School once again. Everybody working together as the team, making sure that they coagulated around objectives and made sure that, you know, they weren't overstaying their welcome as much this game as they had in game 1. They took their lead, they pushed it further as far as it would go, and they really just secured the game quickly and didn't try and throw it away at any portion of the game. They knew what their champions were going to do and how they interacted with each other, and they really didn't hesitate at any point of the game.
Yeah, what was so interesting to me about that game number 2 in particular was just how it seemed that every single time Palmac was able to find a takedown onto a Brighton player, there was just an immediate re-aggression, an immediate answer. And we saw this sort of, you know, drawn-out style with tons of takedowns from both sides. But ultimately, Brighton, they just found an answer every single time, right? It was, oh, Palmac makes a play for 1, but then Brighton just jumps right back in and finds the 2 for 1. So they just ultimately sort of just built upon that to a point of no return.
Yeah, and I mean, if it had been 1-to-1 trades, then it would have been more in the favor of Palmac. You know, you take every little bit that you can get when you're playing from behind. And so, you know, if you trade your AD carry for their AD carry, you kind of call that worth because somebody on your team is getting the gold they wouldn't have had before. And we're looking at some stats here. I mean, these gold numbers are just absurd from the Brighton squad. You know, 15,000 on the top lane, 13 apiece for the mid jungler duo. Like, those are very high numbers, you know, really subjugated by the tower plates they were able to receive, along with just the towers in general. That Jhin topping the damage chart, however, is bonkers. You know, playing from behind, playing from a deficit, is really difficult to be putting up damage numbers since you don't have the money, you don't have the items to really try and combat the enemy team's defensive items building. And so to be able to outpace that and still be the #1 damage dealer in the entire game really shows, you know, what that champion can be capable of.
Yes, unfortunately, there for Palmac, they were seemingly behind for most of that series, and they just were not able to turn around. I do want to give them a bunch of credit, though. I thought they played well, particularly here in Game 2. I think they did everything that they could to get back into this, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's how League of Legends is. You know, you do put everything in, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. You gotta learn to live with the losses sometimes. Thankfully, you know, they do have some seniority on the team, and, you know, the coaches are going to be there as well, you know, to help them really work their way through it and come back stronger next time.
Yes, hopefully they'll be back again and better than ever. But before we go, we do want to get in a word with one of our players that was out there on the Rift. We do have Paul here on the call, and you guys may know him better as Oman. How are you doing? I have to say that was a fairly convincing performance from you there, and particularly in Game 1, but also in Game 2. I think both you and your school shine pretty bright there throughout that series.
Thank you.
Yeah, so now you are, the state champion there. How does that feel, coming out of, a fairly new program?
Well, we won last year as well, and then our program started when I was a freshman, and we did a different organization, and ever since then we've just been building it up.
Nice. It's
but it feels pretty good
course.
to win again. Yes, sir.
Yes, winning is fun. I want to talk a little bit about that second game there. Talk to me a little bit about the adjustments you guys made, because obviously, you had that huge game on the Aatrox. They did end up banning that away. So what was your thought process going into game 2, going into that Yasuo top? What were some of the adjustments that you made to continue your success in that game 2?
So, to be completely honest, we're pretty used to having our main champions banned out. So usually in that case, we just try to find a team comp that just works. So I don't know. I don't know what the Yasuo pick was. I probably could have picked Mordekaiser, and it would have done the same thing. But I was feeling the Yasuo. I popped off. I tried a 3v1. That didn't go too well, but.
That is the nature of the game. Sometimes you just kind of get out of the way. But I mean, when it comes to the draft phase, is it mostly you guys, the players, or is it a collaborative effort between you and, the coach?
It's mostly between the players.
Of course, you guys, want to maintain that autonomy, of course, over your picks. I want to ask, just in terms of, at your school as well, what's your setup like in terms of, having practices or scrims or what have you? Do you guys, obviously lately, of course, with the world situation, I know many of you guys probably aren't actually physically at your school, but, under normal circumstances, previously in the program, like, do you guys have, a setup time and place? Do you, work together, like, in classrooms after, mostly online? Tell me a little bit about the actual experience at your school.
So we have we used to play in the computer lab or the CAD lab, which is where it's like this is where the best computers are in our school. And we didn't have practices. We only practiced at home. A lot of the practice was just individual. It's like, I mean, me and then the two other plats. We just grind solo queue, and we've actually been scrimming a little bit between other teams, like not in New York State, but and the experience is pretty good. It's very fun.
Well, that is glad to hear. Now, how has your PlayVS experience been? You talked about earlier being part of a different organization, but with PlayVS now being, what it is, how has it been playing against, some of the other schools in your region?
I'd say right now it's getting a lot better than it was last year. Last year, the state championship got canceled, or it didn't get canceled, but we were planning on going to a LAN and playing there, but it got that event got canceled, which was kind of but this is our first time second time in a championship, and if I compare it to the previous org, previous org had problems where people not in high school were competing. So I remember there was a couple games where we were playing versus like grandmasters and challengers, or it was master and challenger at the time. But it was rough.
Yeah, I can imagine that not being too fun of a time, and we don't have too much time here, so I want to give you one last question before we go. excluding yourself, because, that's too much of a softball answer, and I don't want you to give too much credit, but, who would you name your team MVP throughout the series if you can't say yourself?
Definitely our mid laner. Destiny Infinite, Susan. She's always consistent. She never feeds basically, except in solo queue. And she always does good damage.
I love that so much. Big shout out to your teammate. Go ahead, Doctor, if you'd like to take us out.
Yeah, I mean, thank you once again for your time. Congratulations once again on the victory. Be happy that you guys are able to take that home for yourselves, and know that you guys worked hard for it as well. But for us here at the desk, we are going to be taking a break as we set up for another big showing for you tonight, guys. We do have the Mountain Central Region finals for you as well today, and we will be right back with those.
All right, thank you guys for having me.